So Kawhi Leonard has let it be known to that Los Angeles Clippers organization after their disappointing 7-game loss, after they led against the Denver Nuggets in all 3 of the closeout games for the Clippers in the third quarter. Kawhi has reached out to the Clippers organization after their disappointing season. He wants a point guard. I'm assuming to Kawhi, Patrick Beverley is not enough. And I get his frustration. I actually thought Patrick Beverley would work with that Clippers organization because he can play off the ball as well. He'll defend and not shoot he'll defend and not attempt a shot an entire game. Like, that's how much he cares about winning. You got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who both can play on the ball in spots. I thought Patrick Beverley would work with what the Clippers were doing. But it looks like Kawhi Leonard wants a point guard. Reportedly, he's even reached out to Chris Paul to see if he could get Chris Paul to kind of help facilitate a deal with the OKC Thunder, who we know are making trades because they just traded Dennis Schroeder a couple moments ago. He wanted to see if Chris Paul can kind of talk with Sam Presti and company and helping him get back to that Clippers team, to kind of finish that unfinished business that Chris Paul had with that Clippers group years ago. Reportedly, Chris Paul and Doc Rivers didn't get along towards the end of that thing to the greatest. Well, Doc is out now. He's in Philly. Now you got Tyronn Lue running that show. That's the scenario. Kawhi wants a point guard. Well, the Chris Paul trade is tough. I don't know how that one's going to play out. So what do the Clippers do next? If your guy wants a point guard, what do? Who else is available? Well, Russell Westbrook is available. As a matter of fact, he's made himself available, as he has told Houston he would like to play somewhere else. Now, there are multiple reports in the atmosphere of him and James Harden not wanting to play with each other. I don't know if that's true or not. Russ said it ain't true. The truth is Russ is on the market, and he made himself on the market. And by the way, Houston's not going to be too pissed if they got to move on from Russell Westbrook. So the reported trade out there is the Clippers are offering Paul George, a guy that they just acquired a year ago, and a first-round pick for Russell Westbrook from Houston. I don't believe a pick should be involved in that trade at all. So I don't think you need a pick to get Russ, right? I think Paul George is the better player, but that is what's being reported out there. So let's just use Paul George and Russ straight up and down for this conversation. Now, if you bring in Russell Westbrook with that Clippers team, you got one of the grittiest teams in the history of the NBA, but it doesn't make sense in my estimations. Is Patrick Beverley going to stick around? You just paid him a decent amount of money. Marcus Moore, you got a lot of ego in that locker room. The problem is your star doesn't have the biggest ego. And for me, that would be very problematic. The Clippers ain't the best shooting team right now. Again, Kawhi reached out to Chris Paul, not Russell Westbrook, for a reason. He knows he could. Obviously, there's a better chance he could get Russ on that Clippers team versus Kawhi, versus Chris Paul. But there's a reason why he reached out to CP3 and not Russell Westbrook. So all that is intriguing to me. If this trade were to happen, which I'm not saying it will, to me it doesn't make the Clippers any better. I would argue if I'm a Laker fan today, which I just so happen to be, or a Nuggets fan today, or whatever team that you think, the Warriors we're expecting them to be back and better than ever. If I am any of these teams, if you're asking me, am I more afraid of a Kawhi, Paul George-led team, two of the best perimeter guys we've seen at the 3 this decade, versus a Kawhi, Russell Westbrook team? I'm a little more afraid of Kawhi and PG because PG is more in his prime than Russ is right now, and PG can knock down that shot. I believe what the Clippers are needing is I think you could get out some of those guys. You need more veterans that have done it. So I just saw Miami re-sign Udonis Haslem. Is Udonis going to make any type of impact on the court himself? No, but he's a staple in that locker room. You put a guy like that around Jimmy Butler. Now you got guys in the locker room that got Bam Adebayo, Taliaferro, Duncan Robinson. You got these guys bought in. Kendrick Nunn. And I think the Clippers could have been better suited going and trying to get the Udonis Haslem type players and keeping Paul George and building him up and finding a serviceable point guard to make that thing work in Los Angeles. I'm not sure if the Russell Westbrook thing makes a lot of sense to me. I would not be surprised if it happens. If I'm Paul George, I am pissed. I was in OKC minding my own business. Kawhi called me like, yo, you want to go play in LA? I know you're from the California area. Cool. All right. Now I go drop my bags, what I'm building here in OKC, after I done lied to them, and I go to Los Angeles with you, and you giving up on me after a year? Like, because if Paul George gets traded to Houston, I'm not saying that means that Kawhi wanted to trade Paul George. It just would mean him playing with a point guard means more than playing with Paul George. That's all I'm saying. That would be a slap in the face to Paul George and his legacy. And I'm sure he's waking up today like, really? I want to see how this one play out. But again, just trade speculation. A lot of rumors are going to be in the atmosphere. There have been talks between the Clippers and Rockets on a blockbuster trade that would send two former teammates, Paul George, he would be traded for his guy, Russell Westbrook, and Russ will be heading to LA to play with Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. Let me know what you think about this one in the comment box below. I thank you guys so much for the time, love, support is what I don't take for granted. Salute. I'm out.